welcome into the next edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. During this show, we are talking all things Stanley Cup Final. And we've got a full house. We've got one of our resident Canadian hockey experts back. Sonny is in the building. What's up, Sonny?
Not too much. Thanks for having me.
Right on, right on. Token Tony's in the building, fresh off of his the Giants won the bet yet, or are you still sweating it?
Still sweating a little. It's bottom of the eighth. Still
okay.
Up by one.
Yeah. And Spike, who gives a shit how you're doing? So
thank you.
No one cares, and neither do you.
I
so
thought we're talking tennis today.
We'll just pass that.
Oh God.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk tennis. Hey, the French Open happened. Serena pulled out, so it's over. So that's it. That's our contribution to tennis. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap that up?
Nadal's still in it to win it.
Okay. Cool. It's a clay court. Nadal's in. Big shocker. Anywho, what we are talking about here is we are 4 games into the Cup Final. And it has not gone the Vegas Golden Knights' way. It is 3-1 in favor of Ovechkin and the Russian spies. I mean, the Capitals, sorry. Initial thoughts. I mean, obviously, this team's been riding cloud 9 so far in terms of the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think the fan base here in Vegas is getting back on the realistic train, it seems. Everything's kind of coming back down to earth at the worst possible time, Spike.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Last year, around this time, my line was that Ovechkin was the only Russian in D.C. that had no actual influence. But it seems like,
There's a new administration in town.
Yeah, he and Kucherov, and I mean, these guys are just playing out of their minds. Not Kucherov.
Kuznetsov.
I'm looking at a Kucherov jersey. That's why I said that.
Sweater, sir.
He's just going to, no matter what I say, he's going to keep, yeah.
Hey, you know what the problem is Vegas got rid of their Russian.
The problem is we have a super pedantic host that's just not going to let anybody get away with bullshit while they're, just kind of talking out of their ass. So, yeah, what the fuck were we, oh, yeah, Stanley Cup Final.
Something out of your ass.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where for the first time since probably the second and third games against the Oilers that the Knights have looked overmatched. Like, they've gone out and lost games, obviously, and they've had problems with some teams, certainly, but they've never looked like they were completely out of it until, probably that third game against Edmonton until now. It's been nothing that they have done has worked. They're not getting the calls to go their way. They're not getting the puck luck. It's just, this is the team that I think people expected to see back in October.
Right, and I mean, realistically, you could make a case that this series should be over. Game 1, like you said, the puck luck almost really fell the Knights' way in certain situations. But they could have lost that game as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Game 1, we got lucky to get the W in that situation. Fleury played pretty decent, as well as the defense in front of him. We attacked the neutral zone pretty well and kept pushing the puck back into their zone, which gave a little rest to our defense.
I mean, the crazy thing thinking about it is you had Holtby, who had shutouts in Game 6 and 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Fleury was the odds-on favorite for Conn Smythe. He was actually, I believe...
He was minus money.
He was minus money at that point,
like
going into this series. Yeah. And in the first 2 games, there were 15 goals allowed.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, it seems like Las Vegas is kind of having what Winnipeg had in the last round, where they're a little bit tired. And
which is surprising because they only played 15 games.
Yeah, I think it's just that they weren't probably, you hope for the best, but they've run into a Washington team that is beating them to the puck, beating them to the hit, is getting the calls, is getting the opportunities. I mean, Vegas had the first power play yesterday. They leave that hanging, and then all of a sudden Washington gets a power play. Boom, Oshie makes it 1-0. They get a second power play. Boom, it's 2-0. They get another, and then Vegas gets a power play, still can't score. So, I mean, it's just those little things that now start to add up for a team that has been to the show and has kind of always looked to take that next level versus a team that, may have overachieved a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the puck luck and et cetera, and 2 ringing off the posts early in Game 4 when the Knights tried to set a tone. It just almost seemed like the tone was we just don't quite have enough to get over the hump. I mean, I honestly thought that they'd split. I thought that they were good enough to get one in Washington, especially with the way Washington's played in their own building. But, with the exception of that first rush, the exception of the first rush in Game 4, both games they looked completely dominated.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even just say the first rush. The first probably 10 minutes of game
that's
four. The Knights look great. I think the turning point, was obviously the Oshie goal in the power play, but on the other end, it was James Neal missing that gaping chasm of a net.
Yeah.
That, if the Knights go up 1-0, 5 minutes into the game, then that's a completely different game that we're watching because, obviously the crowd gets out of it. The Capitals have to, kind of pick their game up. Maybe they make another mistake, et cetera, and so on. So we're talking about a completely different outcome at that point.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at it. Last podcast we had a few guest appearances on, and first thing that they said was the top lines are going to get theirs, and realistically it's going to come down to secondary scoring. Well, our top line, well, I say our, but the Vegas Knights top line is not getting theirs. And the top line of the Capitals is, as well as secondary scoring. I mean, Smith-Pelly, when he's a factor in this series, things aren't going well for Vegas.
Yes, absolutely. I think another contributing factor to...
All right, well, we'll resuscitate Anthony and get his opinion here in a second.
It's just a bad connection. He's driving through a tunnel.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking on your beeper? Is that what that is?
Sorry.
Yeah, I think Yager, Lemieux, and the rest of the pick. No. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, secondary scoring has been crazy. Kuznetsov's been out of his mind. I mean, he's incredibly underrated as a player. Who obviously the number one star on the team is the Ovi, but Kuznetsov and Oshie don't get enough credit as far as what they do for this team.
Yeah, actually, like you said, for forwards, he's definitely contributing the most. He's got the best plus minus this postseason out of everybody on their roster.
Kuzi or Oshie? Yeah, he had, 4 apples last night? Or was that 2 nights ago?
No, 4 assists, last night.
Was it last night?
Yeah.
I'm all turned on one of my days.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I love hockey and watching hockey, but when it got 4-0, I turned it off and went back to sleep. Not going to lie to you. So I feel bad for saying that, but I just felt like I'm glad they got back in the 4-2, but it seemed like, once they got down 3-0 the first, they literally, to me, it looked like they mailed it in. Anybody else share that sentiment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when Washington is beating you up, and as you said, Devontae Smith-Pelly is the factor, and they're showing highlights of how he was a factor for the previous 2 games. And what is it like? He has more goals in the last 2 rounds than he's had all regular season. I mean, Ovechkin, his biggest contribution was just being on the ice.
His presence is physical.
Yeah, he's
hitting
bowling.
people.
He's bowling people over, and I think that's the biggest thing that gets forgotten about his game as well. Is that he's consistently one of the hit leaders on Washington, season in and season out. And I think he's healthy. He's not injured. He doesn't have a broken leg or anything like he said last year. And he's bowling people over. Oshie's a big, strong guy. It's not easy to move
Captain
him.
America.
Yeah, it's not easy to move him from the front of the net. And I mean, when you have Ovechkin plowing everyone over, it's easy for Kuznetsov to come in, dangle around, find Carlson open for a shot, find Smith-Pelly, and Tom Wilson.
He's contributing other than with his fists.
And still has 9 goals or something in these playoffs. It's it's ridiculous.
I mean, for a long time, it always ran through Ovechkin, and it seemed like when Ovechkin couldn't get his, that team just stopped. And I mean, these players were the similar, Oshie and these guys, and Kuznetsov and Wilson, Carlson, etc. They've been on this team for a few years. It's like, what switch just flipped? I mean, was it just, I talked to a couple people, and they said it was beating the Penguins. Some of them said it was when they went down 2-0 after losing 2 games at home to the Blue Jackets, who had never won a playoff series. I mean, where do you guys think that switch just flipped with the Capitals? Because at the same time, I mean, they went down 3-2 to Tampa and still had to win on the road there. I mean, it was just like, it just seems like, as much as the Golden Knights are this team of destiny or this team of fate, you could say the same thing about Washington at this point.
Yeah, actually, one of the things about Washington that I didn't get to look up, and maybe the Crack research staff can get on this, but if they win the Stanley Cup...
She's working on dial-up, dude. Just relax.
Okay, sorry. But if Washington wins the Stanley Cup, they had been behind in all 4 of the series that they played through the playoffs, and I don't know that that's ever happened before.
That's a fair assessment. That'd be a tough one to look up. But
Yeah, so
we got some time.
It might be something that's a little bit difficult to phrase properly into the Google machine to try to figure out how to get the right answer, but it's definitely something worth looking at. It's just it's been. I think the catalyst for Washington in the first round was pulling Grubauer for Holtby. Because remember, Grubauer started the first 2 games.
Correct.
And then lost at home and then got yanked. And he got yanked because he played horribly. If he had just been mediocre, they may have stuck with him.
And it may be Tampa or who else, another team. Tampa or
right,
in the finals, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we could have been talking about Columbus beating Washington in 4 or 5,
yeah.
and then who knows what happens after that.
Yeah, Pittsburgh may be back again, or Columbus may be here. Who knows?
Yeah,
a lot of different scenarios.
It's a lot of really weird things that happen through the playoffs, but this is what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so great: is that there are all these little storylines that come up through the games.
So, obviously, like I said, we've played 4 games. Here so far, it's 3-1. You got to think, I don't know if it's a defining moment, and players say they don't get too high or too low, but, just being in that building for Game 2 and just seeing the energy of the building deflate, I can only imagine the team, that Holtby save on Tuck when he couldn't elevate the puck feels like the turning point of this series. It felt like, you saw the sense of relief on Ovechkin, when everybody's probably seen the video now, and he thought it went in and then he realized it was saved, to the sense of Gallant and the bench just kind of letting out that, oh shit, how the hell did he stop that? And now it's being coined the save and the earmark of the series as far as that. I got to feel that's the turning point, right?
You could definitely make that argument for sure, yeah. I'm trying to think if there was another big moment that had that kind of catalytic effect.
For the momentum, yes, Vegas was down at that point, but you got to think with the building rocking, that equalizer right there, there's a very minimal chance that Vegas loses that game. They're heading to Washington up 2-0, spirits riding high, the city's riding high as they've been all year. What I see on message boards, etc., is just like, all right, well, let's start making draft preparations and season, next year's tickets and blah blah blah. And I'm like, guys, yes, I don't have that great sense of optimism like some rare do. The same people who probably thought the Vegas could get into this position in the first place. But this series isn't over. Like you said, you use the puck luck or whatever expression you want to use, and you get Game 5. Somehow you find a way in Game 6, and then all bets are off in Game 7 at that point.
Well, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And I think a big turning point, or I guess a momentum builder for Washington is, going back to Ovechkin, what he contributes just by being around, being big, and bowling people over. But when he's needed to score, he has stepped up and fired it into the net like it's nobody's business. And I think, you look at Game 3, where it was basically him battling the entire Vegas Knights, including Marc-Andre Fleury, for the puck. On his knees, he taps it in for the first goal of the game. I think those are big contributing factors. And I think, for Vegas, it's not over. And all of a sudden Fleury could steal them a game. I remember in the second round against San Jose, and I thought after Game 4, I said, this is the first time I'm legitimately worried here about Vegas. Like, not only did they not look good at all in Game 4, but they arguably didn't even though they had stolen Game 3 in overtime, they didn't even look good in the third period and the overtime of Game 3. Karlsson just got the break, whipped it in, and scored. So I think when you start looking at that, they've been in this situation before, and then they came back and just shellacked the Sharks. Like, it wasn't even close. People were talking about, do the Sharks get rid of their goalie now? Is he the one to blame? And all kinds of nonsense. So, they've had this ability. They looked horrible in Game 1 against Winnipeg, and then they made Winnipeg look amateurish like an AHL team compared to them through the remainder of the series.
Yeah.
So I think, it's easy to frustrate an Alex Ovechkin. I think he wears every emotion he has on his sleeve. And I think when you look at that, if they can neutralize him, a guy like Oshie starts missing the net. Oshie was irrelevant for the first 2 rounds, and they were talking about, hey, TJ Oshie hasn't scored yet, TJ Oshie this, TJ, and then all of a sudden it was boom, he was getting the bounces. Carlson puts in a couple. Marchessault gets on the board finally. Tuck gets on the board, and I think, all of a sudden you steal Game 5, and then you're in a very winnable arena in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and like you said, we got Game 5 here in a couple days. They've already made a few substitutions. Well, one substitution. Perron has gone to the. He's getting scratched, and Tatar went in, and that didn't seem to really ignite anything. I mean, can we expect any more shakeup at this point? I mean, do we see Reeves go back into a suit and Carrier? I mean, they've been saying if Carrier is ready, he's jumping in, but Reeves has been playing well enough, and still is, in my mind, playing well enough to earn his spot on the ice. Is there anybody right now other than Perron, because his struggles were completely obvious? Is there anybody right now that really maybe they need to evaluate and say, look, it's time for a change, given the fact that it is the Cup?
England.
Yeah,
I'm always going to say England
Yeah,
because he's fucking terrible.
But I mean, what are you going to do? Put in Merrill? Merrill's not good either.
No, but I mean, the problem is it took until the third goal in Game 2 before Washington scored when England wasn't on the ice. So, and he got his first point of these playoffs in either Game 1 or Game 2. I don't remember which. So, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's just one of those things where he has been consistently not there. The only thing he does is block shots. But the problem is he's paired with a young guy in Theodore, and Theodore is going to make mistakes, but England is too slow to come back and cover the ground that Theodore gives up.
That's fair.
So if the only thing that you need is a warm body to go out there and block shots, I don't give a fuck who it is. You just need somebody faster than England.
Fair enough. That's a good assessment, at least with just coming out with England. I know that your undying love for England has been on display all year.
God.
So at least you had
I'd rather
statements to back it up.
I'd rather let my ex-wife circumcise me with her teeth than watch England play hockey.
That's a West Virginia circumcision. Actually, usually it's your sister, not your ex-wife. But sorry, Midwest, if you're listening.
Oh, fuck.
You can point to, we talked about Fleury kind of almost being Matadorian, during this series, but, who do you, if you had to place blame, I mean, I personally, watching the games, think Fleury is playing too dangerously right now, playing too risky, more so than he has been, but at the same time, you're right. The warm bodies in front of him have not been playing well as well. I mean, is it a shared blame, or is there more on one than the other as far as, the defensive unit as a whole, goalie and defense, has looked pretty terrible?
I think it's outright a full blame. I mean, this whole team just needed a spark or something to ignite the ignition of the fuel of the crowd, and it's just lackluster in my mind. And
is it the remix to Ignition?
It's something like that.
It's been a missed way.
My favorite one is I've seen the message boards that says, put in Subban considering he's been hurt for the last month. I'm like, you could try Legacy, but we all know that experiment.
He went 6-6.
You could put Glass or Suzuki on the ice or something.
He went 6-6, and actually, didn't he come in a couple other games later on in the year? But every time it seemed that he was in, he's like, I like him back to your Colin Miller. Every time he was in, I wanted to puke.
Yeah.
Every time Legacy had a shot attempt faced against him, I wanted to puke.
Yeah.
Put Subban on the ice, but as a defender.
Yeah, right. Like Russ Tyler style.
Oh, man.
2 goalies, 1 ice.
Is that like 2 quarterbacks?
Yes.
Is that like running 2 slow white quarterbacks in a triple option offense?
Similar.
Yeah, he can be our Smith Pelly, I guess. But I mean, you look at this series, and I see the betting line right now. It doesn't. I would expect with a 3-1 series it to be higher. The Knights are plus 220 to come back and win this series. You would think
They were plus
500.
Oh, excuse me, plus 550.
Oh, okay.
They were plus 220 before Game 4. My apologies. Plus 550 on William Hill to come back and win this series. Anybody sprinkling?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of that goes to the Washington choke history more so right now than people's true belief that skill-wise, matchup for matchup, Vegas outplays Washington.
That is true. The Washington Capitals have actually blown more 3-1 series leads than any other team in North American sports.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at that, I think that's where that betting line comes in, is that there's always the chance that Washington could just shut down. And, to a couple of points we've made, I don't know that Vegas wins without Reeves or Fleury. Well, Fleury's obvious, but I don't know that they win without Reeves. And, we all know I'm a big advocate of Ryan Reeves. And I think what he brings in terms of athleticism, what he does that powerful, when he parks himself in front of that net, who's really going to step up and move him? And I think just that kind of fear in the Washington Hearts, knowing that, wait a second, if you take a run of any of our players, he's coming over the boards, and he'll do what he needs to do. He has a game-winning goal. He has 2 goals. I don't know you take him out. I don't care who's ready on the sides. I don't see Vegas having a chance without having Ryan Reeves in the lineup.
No, and that's fair. And I think the reason I look at taking a guy like him out is, yes, he has scored 2 goals, but the threat of offensive prowess is not really there. He was right place, right time, and by technicality committed an infraction on one of them. I'm just looking at the fact that, the Braden Holtby that we see in the last 3 games is not the Braden Holtby that everyone has expected. I mean, Spike said it perfectly one time. He makes the he makes the easy saves look hard. That's just the kind of goalie Braden Holtby is, and that's not the goalie he's been in this series. So realistically, it's all about firing perfect shots at this point, because Braden Holtby's been fantastic. So yes, I mean, while Ryan Reeves doesn't necessarily deserve to be taken out of the rotation, I just feel like, and I'm not Carrier necessarily, just something as of a change-up, because Carrier, I mean, if you look at the statistics, Carrier is almost on equal par with Reeves, maybe a little bit faster. But, as far as offensive skill and defensive skill, they're pretty much, almost similar, despite what people like to say about Carrier. If you look at the stats, the numbers back that up. It's just theoretically just something of a change, realistically. And I know, here we are in Game 5. You're 3 games left in the entire regular season, or the entire season in the NHL. You always say go with what got you there, but this team's kind of what got them there is pushing the right buttons at the right time, and that includes taking people out and putting people in, and maybe that's what it is. I mean, no one is getting anything, going right now. Shuffling up the line specifically might not be the right move, but inserting players who could provide a spark. I'd like to think Tatar can provide something, but the fact that we're paying him $5 million, that might be the only reason I think that. So over the next 4 years,
yeah.
I think we need to create an opportunity to get in the mindset of Holtby as well as Ovechkin, and just mess up their head and make them on tilt almost. Let them make the mistakes.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a dangerous game, because you're relying on a team who's firing on all cylinders to stop firing on all cylinders at that point, which can happen. I mean, Holtby's shown that he can go off the rails very easily. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not Gallant, so I don't have this decision to make. But.
Right. And, the other part of it, too, is, like you were talking about, like, who comes out. And, when you shuffle the lines, what changes do you make? You're not going to touch the Karlsson line. That's just off limits.
No.
You've already switched up Perron for Tuck on the second line. And then Perron comes out, so you've got Tatar, Eakin, and Carpenter on the third line.
Who's also been pretty non-existent.
I was going to say, and with the fourth line, we can talk about Nosek and Belmar and Reeves. Reeves is staying in because he's the muscle. Belmar and Nosek. Nosek's putting up goals. The two of them play really well.
They've been great, yeah.
On the penalty kill, the second unit of the penalty kill. So really, the only option that makes sense to me is Carpenter.
Carrier for Carpenter?
Yeah, well, even either Carrier or Lindbergh, because Lindbergh's supposedly healthy.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and maybe Lindbergh, I don't know what Lindbergh brings that's so, far superior to Carpenter.
Well, if it was, he'd be in already.
Yeah, I don't know what else to do on the offense, because from the forward lines, that's the only change that I can see that makes sense.
So then I guess the question is home ice advantage enough? Because it's, for Vegas, it's been one of the keys all year. We played well at home. They've they played well on the road, but they always say that it's nice to come back to a rocking atmosphere. And the hope is that fans who both either feel optimistic or pessimistic will still come and root the team on.
Well, I think that's going to play a big part of it too. I think the Vegas fans, having watched home games in Winnipeg and then games down here, is just have that way of showing their support. And I think right now the team needs their fans more than ever to just come out there, be loud, be obnoxious, get in Vegas's heads, start the OV chants, start the Holtby chants. I mean, it's true about Braden Holtby. I mean, this is a guy that going into this season in 3 straight or 2 or 3 straight 40-win seasons. Mm-hmm. He had just won a Vezina Trophy. I think it's something like the last 3 or 4 Vezina Trophies have only been won by 2 players, Bobrovsky and Holtby. And
he won a Vezina?
Yeah, he won a Vezina when he had his 47-win season.
Wow, okay.
Fair enough. I think he was runner-up the other years. And Bobrovsky won the other ones. So, I mean, with Braden Holtby, it's one of those weird things. Sometimes he looks just like this world beater in there, calm, composed. Everything's hitting him. He doesn't seem to be doing much. And then there's other times when it's almost like he's watching the puck go by him. And it's just like, whoa, dude. Yeah. Hey. Like, why was that in? And I think if you're Vegas, you kind of have to hope a little bit of that shows up eventually. And, just keep the pressure up. They're a fast team and they can skate. So I think that's the big part.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Holtby had 0 shutouts until games 6 and 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. None throughout the entire regular season or postseason until those games, and he's getting hot at just the right time.
Right, I mean, you could say that, but then the flip side, game 1 gives up 5 goals.
Yeah, but Fleury also gave up 4, so it's not like anybody was stopping anything at that point. I think that was just nerves.
Right, fair enough. I mean, you're absolutely correct. I just, it's hard to tell what Holtby's going to show up, and you're right. For the last 3, 4, 5 out of 6 games, the Vezina Holtby has shown up, and you're right. Sometimes just getting past a hot goalie is impossible. It's just sometimes that's what carries teams to a cup. But another thing I notice realistically is, and I don't see it out of a lot of teams, and realistically I don't remember seeing it out of Washington for a long time, is their misdirection ability without the puck. It always seemed like they knew where the other 2 or 3 guys were going to be. It seemed like, and then when I say Fleury was way out of the net, it almost seemed like because of this misdirection and ability to pass without looking or know exactly where player X, player Y is going to be or supposed to be, it seemed like it set up a lot of wide open nets that made Fleury look bad, but it's really a testament to Washington's ability to move without the puck.
Yeah, and that's especially evident, too, on the power play. If you watch them, especially compared to the Knights, they'll pass, they'll kind of shift a little bit and whatever else, but Washington will move constantly on the power play, and that's probably a product of just trying to open up that circle for Ovechkin so he can set up shop. And I mean, he's made a career shooting pucks from that circle.
From his office, yeah.
Well, and I mean, too, if you watch some of those games and some of those power plays, just him moving around, you're watching the defenseman always doing the double take to see, what's Ovechkin doing? And again, he hasn't even taken, I think last game, where did he take 1 shot on the power play, and it wasn't even that good of a shot. But I think the surprising thing, going back to the misdirection of Washington, that I've been impressed with, that I've been advocating even back home when I watch these games, is that Ovechkin can actually pass the puck very well. I think people have known him to be a goal scorer and that's his thing, and he parks up, and the whole message of the team is get the puck to Alex. But just because he chooses not to do something doesn't mean he can't do it. And I mean, every series it seems like he's set up these ridiculous goals by making these $1 million passes to an open stick. He's sent Kuznetsov in, he's sent Wilson, he's hooked up Smith-Pellet. So, I mean, I've been impressed by his ability to pass, as well as just the fact that, he has the best shot in the league.
Sorry, I know I'm making weird faces. I was just looking at the Superbooks mobile odds here while you were talking, and sometimes finding an error in some of their lines can lead to good value. They have they have the Capitals plus 130 for the game, but they have the Capitals' exact series result to win in 5 games at plus 120. So wouldn't it make sense to bet the game if they win?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why I was like, well, I mean, why would I not bet Game 5 instead of betting Capitals in 5? So it's just one of those things. They're just loophole. I think sometimes they miss those kind of things, but that's a chance,
And usually, like, how minor it is could also be worth the extra value. I mean,
well, you're talking about 10 cents right here,
Yeah, I mean,
so
1,000. That's the
Caps to win in 7 is plus 750. Any interest in that?
How fucking annoying would that be? Sorry.
To get all the way back to 7 and,
Yeah,
and lose?
for the Knights to force a Game 7 only to lose to the Caps then.
That's the reason I opened this up, because the exact series results for the Superbook. Oh, excuse me. Go back to this. The series price has Vegas at plus 500, and I was going to see if they had exact series result, if that was going to be a change. But no, the Knights in 7 is plus 500. But yeah, to climb all the way back still would be a great feat. But yeah, to lose it at home would it be more of a gut punch if they lost now or lost in 7?
I mean, for me personally, it would be Game 7, not only because, A, that would suck for my wallet as a season ticket holder, but B, the wife and I have a road trip planned, and we were trying to leave by, like, Sunday or Monday next week, and if it goes to a Game 7, that's Wednesday, we're not going to miss it. So they're just fucking up my plans at that point.
So, as a sports fan, you're rooting for 7, but as a person who has a life, you're not rooting for 7.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Well,
How do you feel about that?
It's kind of like the way I play poker, right? Would I rather play well and lose early, or play like crap and
play bad, run good?
Yeah, and bubble, right? Would you rather kind of have your chips drip to you occasionally and bubble, or would you rather be like, hey, I played well, but things didn't go my way? I mean, you hope to play well, run well, and do well. And I think for Vegas, I mean, they need a little bit of run well, and to play well. And I think, getting into a Game 7, it's almost like you forget everything else.
Well, when you get to Game 7,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, nothing matters. Take out the trends, take out the records, whatever. But so let's start with Game 5. What does Vegas have to do other than score more goals than Washington?
It's not just that. They got to score early, because if Washington goes up, and especially if they go up like 2-0 at the end of 1, that building's going to be dead for the rest of the game.
Yeah. That's
they've got to start off to a right foot, as well as pressure Washington into making flaws and hitting them while they're down, causing chaos with hick checks, as well as just persistent passions or passing. So.
Got to have persistent passions, absolutely. That's key, absolutely.
I think that was the name of a Skinamax movie back in the 90s.
Persistent.
Yeah, it came on after Co-Ed Confidential, right?
Like I said, pedantic host.
What'd you call me, pendejo?
Just because you don't know a word doesn't mean that it's suddenly Spanish.
Mi hermano. What were we talking about? Besides passions. Oh, okay, yeah, I had something in my mind. Question for everyone is, we've seen a lot of this fourth line. They've been the best line in the series. Gallant said it. And even Marchessault said it. What do you guys got to do to play better? He said, play like the Bellmare line. That said, if the unfortunate happens that Washington goes up, do we see less of that line and more of the scoring lines as a kind of a throw the kitchen sink at Holtby at this point? Because, yes, the fourth line has scored goals, but we don't look at them as the offensive prowess of the first and the second lines. Do you see that just a circle of rotation of 1 and 2s and 3 here and then with a sprinkle of 4? I mean, do you just kind of see that, like, we've got to throw pucks at the net, even if it means we leave Fleury wide open? I mean, you see more Theodore at that point. You see more Miller. Just all facets of it.
Yeah, you might have to. The problem is that, this is what we saw out of Winnipeg when Paul Maurice overused his top couple of lines, that they were just dead by the end of games.
Well, if they don't win, there's no more games.
Right. No, I understand. Like, it's a catch-22, because if you overuse them, they're not going to be effective even when they are on the ice. So even if they, if it's, say, 2-0 Washington and you get one back and all of a sudden, like, Marchessault and Smith have nothing left in their legs, it's not doing you any good.
No, the good thing is you got 2 days of rest in between. I mean, as a silver lining. The good thing, I mean, I hate the fact as a fan I got to wait 2 days, but the travel at least gives them time to rest and recuperate. But I get what you're saying. Like with the Winnipeg, they were beat every game. But there are no more games at this point, So it's kind of almost a situation where I just wonder if they go down early 1-0, God forbid 2-0, it's time to start, bringing in the big guns multiple times, double shifts. I don't know as far as what else to do at that point, because the offense at that point, if you're down 2-0, you've gone 4 games and however long it takes to get down 2-0, and nothing's working, with the exception of the initial first period of game 1.
No, I think that's a big part of it. Well, then that goes back to the what's worse part. Is do you now start doing that and risk losing not only in 5, but potentially horribly in Game 5? All of a sudden now, because
does that matter though?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is it you try to conservative, you do what you're doing, and then you hope to grind out Game 5, or do you throw out the sink and be like, look, we could, and if you're gallant, do you tell the guys, look, we're going for it. If we fall behind, don't be surprised if we have to do this and we could lose big. And
I just feel like if they have to throw everything at Holtby, they're going to leave Fleury on an island, and Fleury with defense in front of him hasn't been good. Fleury with no defense in front of him might be even worse.
But if the one, I think, redeeming thing that Vegas has, and I think they can kind of, Gallant's a smart enough guy that he would pick this up, but if I can, I would hope he can, is that the more time you're spending in Washington's zone, the more face-offs you're forcing Washington to take in that zone. The more times they're having to reset in that zone, the more times they're taking those frustration icing shots.
Too.
Well, longer changes, and Ovechkin's not on the ice.
Well, that's the whole Corsi mindset. The more you're in that zone, the less they're scoring.
And Ovechkin does not play defense, so that's almost the best thing is the amount of offensive zone time you can spend non-power play. Because power play, he comes right on as soon as the penalty kill's over. Ovechkin's the next, it replaces whoever, and then they just work the lines accordingly. So if you can keep him on the bench. And, now you're starting to have to wear down those guys like a TJ Oshie, and you're having to wear down that Backstrom and Oshie line. It puts a lot more pressure on the guys like Kuznetsov and stuff. And we've seen when Ovechkin gets frustrated. I forget which game it was. It was one of the Tampa Bay games where he smashed his stick when he was telling his teammates to get him the puck, to get him the puck, to get him the puck. And they were doing everything wrong, and he's trying to get in there and stay open. And then finally he flipped out on one of them. It might have been Kuznetsov or something. Mm-hmm. And being like, hey, guys, I'm doing everything here, and you need to get me the puck. How much more can I do? And he was so mad and was, openly ripping into his teammates. And I think, it's the same thing as if he, all of a sudden he could lose it too and be like, well, I'm not even on the ice, guys. Get it together.
So you think the Golden Knights' best approach is to, and I know you said this between Ovechkin and Holtby, you think the Golden Knights' really only saving grace is to screw with the heads of Washington?
Absolutely. I don't think they're going to outplay them. I think it's so hard now. They're just, Washington is hitting so hard. They're playing so hard. They're faster. They're passing better. They're shooting better. They're getting the bounces.
And that was the thing with, sorry to interrupt you, that was the thing with every series leading up. The Knights were not necessarily on paper, talent-wise, better than any of the teams that they beat. But LA decided they were going to come in and hit Vegas. Vegas said, fine, we'll just outspeed you and get around the hits, and they won the series in 4 games. The Sharks said, we have better scorers, we're going to just outshoot you and outscore you. Well, the Knights said, fine, we're going to play defense and get timely goals.
Yeah.
Winnipeg said, we can set up a power play better than you, we just have better overall talent than you, and they said, fine, we're just going to work harder.
Yeah.
Here, Washington has faster skaters, better players, more talent. You could question better coaching. And there's nothing that Vegas can say, we're going to do this. And yeah, maybe you're right. Just getting in their head, kind of Bad News Bear style.
Yeah, and I think that kind of becomes the case. Is it's a matter of just.
I thought that's kind of what we saw at the end of the last game with Reeves and England kind of mixing it up with Oshie and was it Wilson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Oshie and Wilson.
And I think that could be a big part of it too, right? You have these two guys getting out there, and maybe that's a big part of it too, is showing if you're Vegas.
Bench England, he's got to beat everybody up.
As you show Vegas, as Vegas shows them that, right? Reeves is out there and he's going to get in Ovechkin's face. He's going to ragdoll Backstrom around a little bit.
Is there anything that we can provide a spark with that? You think there's anything that the team's going,
Yeah, we're at the very least we have to see retribution for Miller getting his nose broken by Oshie there.
Yeah.
So, that'll be probably early if Vegas tries to go for it. The problem is they got to be careful because they can't, if they go after somebody too hard and take a flagrant penalty, then we're looking at worst being down for 2 minutes and then letting Washington get an early goal, which is exactly what they have to avoid. So, but I mean, they can't let, that sort of thing go unpunished.
Now, before this series, I heard a lot of people, Knights in 5, both people who follow the sport, knowledgeable about the sport, watch the sport for fun, etc. Let's look at it now. Obviously, it's not Knights in 5. The best it could be is Knights in 7. What are your thoughts? I mean, are you? It's over tomorrow, or it's over Thursday? What day is the game? Wednesday?
Thursday, yeah.
This 2-day layoff, as much as I love it, I hate it as a fan. I mean, you can put your Knights hat on, or you can put your realistic hat on.
I think realistically, it's Caps in 6.
I'm going with the Cinderella story, Knights in 7.
I think there's a Disney movie to be made. Yeah, Cup in 1, and
that's a good title for it.
I think that's a big part of it. I think if you can take Game 5, I mean, if they can take Game 5 at home, this is a hard building to play in coming into T-Mobile.
True.
And I mean, I was outside for Game 1. And just even the excitement there and the passion of the fans there. And then for Game 2, you watch the Vegas fans kind of coming out. I mean, the Washington fans coming out of T-Mobile, and they're almost like happy to escape with their lives. Be like, hey, we won. Now let's get to our hotel room quick and take off the jersey. And so I think that's a big thing. You go back in there, all of a sudden Washington might be a little jittery to play at home where they have more losses than wins this postseason. And then you get it back here for 7, and then you're like, hey, here we go. Imagine that crowd with Vegas having won 2 straight games.
If it goes 7, I'm taking Vegas for sure, like 100%. But I don't think they get past Washington in Game 6.
I'm not going to lie. I was with you over here, Spike, with Caps in 6. But between that inspiring speech by Sonny, on top of the fact that I want to see Emilio Estevez play Gerard Gallant, I'm going Knights in 7, man.
I thought you were going to sign us all and say Caps in 5.
Yeah, they could still make a movie even with Caps in 5.
Let's not forget, Friday Night Lights, the movie, was focused on a season where the team ended up losing in the championship game, and then at the end, before they roll the credits, they're like, oh, next year they went perfect and they won the state championship. Yeah. So, they could make a movie and lose this year and then win next year. Who fucking cares about this? It's based on like a 20-year-old book and a 10-year-old movie. But it's for the Knights, I mean, they could lose this year, make the movie about this year, and then win the Stanley Cup next year and still be as compelling as a movie.
I mean, hell, they made the Mighty Ducks, and they never won one until 07. So,
well, and I think, too, I mean, you can look at that and even look at Moneyball. If you want to make movie references, that's probably the
somebody who never won anything.
That is probably the ultimate one. It was about the guy who got shellacked by, they made it so far, then they lose all their talent due to the Yankees buying them up. And the Yankees and Bo Sox buying up all their talent. Then they come up with this new system of play. And then the end credits don't even say how, Oakland went on to win a World Series. They're like, no, actually, Boston just brought in a guy who employed the same technique, had a bigger budget, and then they won the World Series.
Well, if you look back, they haven't even won a playoff series. Billy Bean's Moneyball has been great to get to the playoff.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So, yes, Billy Bean can be celebrated, but realistically, he's a loser.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do the Moneyball approach, or you can buy an approach, and you can get to the playoffs, and you just gotta win. You gotta win when you get there. So, but yeah, you're talking about guys. You're talking about making a movie of somebody who realistically never really won. Friday Night Lights, Moneyball, etc. They could make a Cup in 1. Whoops, or Cup in 1. JK. Yeah. All right, let's look at some props here before we wrap up, and just kind of give me your overall thoughts. I'll direct them to you. You talk about a fast start, for the Knights or the Capitals needing a fast start to shut the building down. First bet we have here, Spike, I'll look at you. Yes, 140. No, plus 120. score in the first 10 minutes?
I am going to go with no. I think Vegas's puck luck hasn't been great, and I think / hope that their defense will be better. So I would take the no on that one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, here's another one that's really more prevalent in football, more so that I see as a prop bet, but I haven't really seen it in hockey. But here we go. Will the Capitals or the Knights score 3 straight unanswered goals? The yes is plus 170. The no is minus 200.
I would go with the no in that spot. I mean, you have a lot of different fluctuations with that goal. I mean, it could be a 2-0 shootout or a 2-0
That'd be a neat trick.
2-0 shutout and still win that bet. It could be 2-1 going in, and the other team gets one, and then you score 2 again straight and give up another one. I mean, I think the juice is still good value in that spot.
Are you sure you understand the bet I'm saying, though?
Yeah, 3 straight goals by one team.
Oh, okay, because you said a 2-0 shutout. I'm like, there's not even 3 goals in that.
Yeah, that'd be a win.
Oh, if you're saying the no. Okay, I got you. Maybe I should listen. Sonny, will the team that scores first win the game? No is plus 230. Yes, minus 280.
Yes. Because, and I say it goes back to both team strategies. I don't know if Washington scores first. It's not a situation where it could be 2-3-0 before the end of the first. If Vegas scores first, it's the same thing. I don't think that they let off, and I don't think Washington comes back at that point. I think they start playing that desperate hockey where now all of a sudden Ovechkin isn't being used to body check. He's being used to sit in front and try and score goals. Now all of a sudden that puck gets reamed around his side. He's flipping around to try and keep it in the zone, and Vegas is breaking out and having a scoring chance. So I think that one there is the team that scores first. I think that's probably one of the safer ones. It's a yes. I don't see a situation where, Washington scores first and then all of a sudden it's a 4-1 Vegas win and vice versa.
Fair enough.
Plus if it goes 0-0 in overtime, and that's auto lock.
Yeah.
So we have a couple of guys on each on the Capitals here. Will Ovechkin score a goal? Will Kuznetsov score a goal? There's 2 different separate prop bets, but who, first of all, do you think would be more likely to have a goal in this game between those two? And obviously, Ovechkin's a premier goal scorer, but with the game plan that you talked about, Ovechkin is plus 150, Kuznetsov is plus 190 to get a goal. I mean, where's the better value to jump on in that spot?
Better value is Kuznetsov. It's funny. Anthony and I were talking about this towards the end of the season when it came down to who was going to get the goal scoring race. And I wrote him this long kind of diatribe on why I thought Patrick Laine would get it. It had nothing to do with, Laine's from Winnipeg, it's Laine's time or anything like that. It's Ovechkin brings a lot more to what he does. So he, again, is hitting. He's creating space by being there. He's a distraction. He can pass, all of these things, whereas it allows Kuznetsov to do his job a little easier. And that's kind of what I said. Laine was not expected to pass. He's not checking. He's not throwing the body. It's everybody does what they can to get Laine the puck, and he fires it in. He was hot at the time, so it was looking like he could surpass Ovechkin. And I think it's the same thing here. Ovechkin does more without the puck and is very vital to that Washington strategy when they're up and when they're controlling the pace to not have to score and allow guys like Kuznetsov to get goals.
Okay, so this one's for all of you guys. It's, we've all, despite our differing predictions, we all think the Knights are going to win Game 5. He's talked about Caps in 6. We've all talked about Knights in 7. Theoretically, I feel like our belief in that has to go hand in hand with these next 2 prop bets, or at least the first one, and that's what we talked about with aggressiveness toward the goal. Total shots on goal by the Knights over under 31.5. It's 110 both ways. You got to figure whether the Knights are in desperation or the Knights are in attack mode. They're going to try to win this game by outscoring and outshooting. So my theoretical spot in here is the over.
I would absolutely agree with you on that one. I think 31's a realistic number as well as almost a low number in my mind. thought they would bump it up maybe to 32.5 or something like that, realistically, in a desperation game.
I'm going under. I think Washington has been blocking too many of Vegas' shots, so that the shots on goal should be somewhere in the neighborhood of the high 20s that actually land on Holtby.
And that's another way to look at it, too, because you're right. The block shots have been absurd, the amount that Washington has contributed.
Yeah, they're out blocking Vegas something like 3.5 to 1, 4 to 1 throughout the last couple of games.
So with that being said, you like the over, he says the under. I think to beat the Caps, it's going to take 3+ goals. So the next one I say is the team total of the Knights over 2.5 is -160, under 2.5 +140.
Sorry, what was that? I apologize.
Team total number of goals, the Knights over under 2.5.
Over. I don't see them winning the game 1-0. I don't see them winning it 2-0. I think if they win, it is like a 4-2 win, a 5-3 win, something along
kind
that.
of their MO, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them grinding out a 1-0 LA type series win here. I think it's a big game. Like, I think that's kind of the line there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, both with the logic and the play. Makes total sense.
All right, and my final one. Will Eric Haula will Eric Haula get a point, or will Riley Smith get a point? Who seems like a better bet? Haula's +250 to get a point, and Riley Smith is -170 to get a point.
Oof. Based on that value, I like Haula.
He has 0 points in the series, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or he may have an assist on the Neal goal.
I feel like he has an assist. Yeah,
I know his plus-minus ratings in the toilet, but
yeah, that entire second line's like a -9.
I understand I understand. Obviously, the values there at +250. Is that necessarily, in your opinion, the best bet between the two?
In my mind, yes, based on the value.
So how does that bet work?
No, they're two separate bets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say
They're two separate bets.
well, either or, and they both
my first take the juices out of it.
Yeah,
Haula getting a point or Smith getting a point.
And then which bet do you like more?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, they have a lot of them actually. I mean, Carlson scoring a goal is +150. Marchessault +160. Neal scoring a goal is +250.
Who's likely to be more on the line on the ice when Marchessault's on the ice? I think that's the bigger question. I think
that's the Smith-Carlson line. So.
Yeah, so then there you go.
Smith's point.
So I think that's the big thing. Smith gets a point. I mean, because he's playing on the line that's most likely to get one. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, who's going to have the highest plus-minus? Is it the guy playing? Well, I mean, right now, playing with Devontae Smith-Pelly isn't the worst thing in the world, plus-minus,
Well, and the same thing, if the Knights get behind, like we said, that first line's probably going to lead in ice time.
Exactly. So I think the Smith there, I mean, and I think there's even value in that. I think
even at -170.
I think you still lay it out. If you truly believe Vegas wins and finds ways to win, that's the bet to make. You lay it out there, you lay a few hundred to cover it, and then you make some money.
Interesting. All right.
Anybody want to throw out who scores the first goal? I'll give you their odds if you throw me a player.
Kuznetsov
10-1.
Nosek.
Ooh, that's a good one. I think he might be in the field.
Wow.
James Neal.
Oh, Nosek 60-1. James Neal is 12-1.
So this is what we used to do back in 2011 when the Bruins were in the Stanley Cup. Me and some friends would get together, and we would essentially do a player-by-player draft. Like, we would figure out a draft order, and then we would say, all right, I want, Bergeron, I want Marchand, and we go like that. It'd be $1 per player, and then whoever scored first, that person scoops the pot. And I kept meaning to do it during the Stanley Cup Finals with you guys and then a couple of friends of mine, trying to figure out a way that we could kind of replicate that, and then I just got too lazy.
Let's do it now. It might be the last game of the year. All right, we'll get the Crack Research staff to write it down, and that way we can have this on.
So we all get one player, or do we get like a couple of players?
You can essentially go as many players as you want, but you pay per player. So at one point you can say pass, and then you're done. You're out. And then if you did 2, if you did 4, if you did whatever else, you still have the same layout. Yeah.
Or an even more dangerous one is we all pick a player, and if that guy hits, you pay them what the book was going to pay us. I'm like, okay, give me.
I'm sticking with Nosek.
I'm going Ryan Reeves, Brady McNabb, Lucas Sabisa, all at 100-1. All right, let's take 3 players. We'll do $5 each.
All right.
Not each player, just $5 each.
And each get 3 players.
Okay.
And we each get 3
We can do it
players,
that way.
and if we hit, he scoops a $20 pot.
Yeah.
All right.
We got to figure out the right draft order, though.
Yeah. Picking over through a head or something? Or?
Nah, Sonny's the guest. He'll go first. I'll go last, and we'll make it a snake.
All right. I take Ovechkin with my first pick.
No. Keep it Knights players only.
Is it Knights players only?
Yeah, if we start going into Washington, then we're going to have way too more
So it's
often
the
than
first
not.
Knights goal.
Yeah, the first
Oh,
Knights goal.
okay. Well, that's different. Okay.
Yeah, so if we start getting into Caps players as well, then we're looking at essentially 36 possibilities, and we're taking 12 total.
Yeah. So, okay, that's fair.
All right. I'm going to have to go with Jonathan Marchessault.
I'm going to go with Carlson.
Neil.
All right, I'll take 2 picks, and I'll take Tucker Nuts and Shea.
Then I will take. Fuck it, Nosek.
Dead air is not good for a podcast.
I'm going to think Theodore.
No. All right, he took him.
Schmidt.
All right. So
All right.
I get 2
Sonny,
now,
for
right?
your last 2, yeah.
Yeah, I take Braden McNabb, and I take Alex Tuck.
Tuck's already.
Tuck's
Tuck's
gone.
taken.
Tuck's gone.
Sorry,
I used his pet name, Tucker Nuts,
Oh, okay, and you took who else was the other one you took?
and Shea Theodore.
Okay, so then that would mean no 6 available.
No, I
Nope.
took him.
You took no. I gotta start paying more attention. I'm gonna go Cody Eakin.
Ah, fuck.
Oh, you redheads tried to stick together.
The Ginger Ninja.
I am going to go with Paula.
Did anybody take Riley Smith yet?
No.
All right, I'll
You
take
fuck.
Smith.
I was like, I'm going to get Raleigh Smith with the last pick. All right. It's for me, it's between Colin Miller and Tater Tot, so I'll let the producer pick.
Tatar.
All right, I'm taking Tomas Tatar. So, all right, so who the hell would be in the field here? Like, literally every player for both teams. I'm looking at the Super Bowl mobile. I'm literally every player. Who?
Goalies.
I mean, it would be like Lindbergh, I guess, if he got dressed, because Perron's not in here either. I mean, if they... I don't know.
I guess if it's a guy who's not currently in the roster.
I'm guessing a guy who's not on the roster, who's probably not playing, and the field's only 40-1. That doesn't seem... that seems like...
Includes both goalies, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Oh my god, an own goal in which one of them gets credited? That would be hilarious.
No,
It's
it'd
own
be
goal,
him
it's
scoring
the
the other.
last
If it's the
person
own goal,
that
it's the other person, the last person on the team.
Yeah, so it could still be the goalie.
Yeah, technically, yes.
It's
You're
very
right.
hard to do that way.
That would be a neat trick.
Cam Ward did it.
Yeah, but he didn't
Billy
get the
Smith.
goal.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that's how Cam Ward has his goal, I believe it is.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the one where he skated it into his own net.
No, I think he got credited with a goal because he had made a save, and then New Jersey dumped the puck back into their own net on a delayed penalty.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, that was like almost 10 years ago.
We talked about
it
that
was
not
the-
too
it
long
was the
ago.
last-
About
Well, we just talked about
that got
goalies
the
who
goal.
scored, right?
Yeah, would be credited with the goal, though.
Yeah.
Jose Theodore.
Right.
Oh, now I'm looking at... Yeah, you're right. Cam Ward credited with a
That's
goal in
right.
2011.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an offensive player. It can be the goalie. And he made a save on a delayed penalty.
But you think if a goalie or somebody who's probably going to be scratched, the field would be better than 40-1.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's my point.
It
It would seem like the field should be better than 40-1 at that point. So, anywho, let's wrap it up. We talked about it. We all think Knights in 7. The Disney movie will be made. Spike's going Caps in 6, but I know he's rooting for Knights in 7.
that is true.
So, yeah. Like I said, before Sonny's passionate Miracle on Ice speech, I was in the same boat as you. So, anyways, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Vegas Squares podcast. We appreciate you listening. We'd like to thank our sponsors, 12 Ounce Sports Radio, for putting us on and putting up with us, and also Chai Poker, for sponsoring us as well. And next time we record, guys, we do have some free swag from Chai Poker. They have graciously donated some swag, and as well as they're going to feed us next podcast.
Hey!
So next time
fuck them on the road.
Next time we'll hold on to it then till you get back.
All right.
And Sonny's going to be here for a while. So how long are you on the road?
Nobody
cares how long you're on the road.
I should have seen that coming. God damn it.
Read the blog.
I don't have to thank Forward Mile anymore because they do not exist. So I found it kind of curious when I uploaded about 12 podcasts and none of them got posted to the website. I'm like, and then all of a sudden the CEO said they were no longer operating. So, shit happens. So, anyways, well, we appreciate you tuning in. Catch us on all of our different social media platforms. Our website, vegassquares.com. Our Twitter handle, Vegas Squares. You can catch Tony over at TokenTony89 and Spike at Spike McAwesome. Is there an underscore in there?
Nope.
Nope, just Spike McAwesome?
Yep.
Cool. It'd be McMawsomer if you had an underscore. And Sonny, can they find you on social media anymore?
They can. I just can't remember my Twitter handle, so
So find Sonny on Google search.
I'll tweet out you guys and then.
Google search,
Right on. Don't at me, bro.
Google search heads up 2018.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
2018
that's right. I got
winner?
my. Yeah, that's right. That's the goal. Yeah.
Yeah, you're playing the 10K. The 10K heads up.
I am. Yes, I am playing that tomorrow. So hopefully we can get that in the next few days and celebrate
For the
that.
next podcast, you'll be showing us off your bracelet.
That's right. That's right.
Right on. All right, for Google search Sonny, for Token Tony, for Spike McAwesome, I am Aaron. I appreciate you all tuning in and listening. We are, and for the producer and the Crack Research staff as well, we are out.